Welcome back to the Costa Report. Luis Alvarez, the CEO of Alvarez Technology Group, is with us to talk about his latest obsession, the self-driving cars that we just can't get enough of. Hi, Luis. How are you?
Well, I am terrific because we get to talk about cars today. So, what more can I say?
Everywhere I turn, there are new stories about these self-driving cars popping up. What's the latest?
Well, it's a really hot topic right now. And recently, Google applied for a very interesting patent that makes people think that the idea of a self-driving car isn't as far off as we thought, well, at least in Google's opinion.
So what was the patent for?
Well, it's a system that allows local retailers to use Google's data gathering and analytics engine to offer free taxi rides to their best customers as a way to entice them to shop, dine, or otherwise, patronize their business.
Did you say taxis?
Yeah, taxis. And here's the interesting part. The patent is for a taxi service which uses self-driven automated vehicles, and that's in quotes. When you think about it, this makes a lot of sense because the biggest expense for any taxi service is the cost of the driver. So a taxi without a driver is a pretty cheap proposition.
Yeah.
So driverless taxis is where they seem to be headed.
That's an interesting application for a self-driving car. It kind of lets folks have an inexpensive experience with a self-driving car so they can get used to the idea, people like me.
Yeah, the conventional wisdom at the moment is that a true self-driving car won't come to the market until sometime in the middle of the next decade, 2025 or so. But some people close to the leadership at the top of Google say that the company is pretty confident that self-driven vehicles will be on the road by 2018, in just a few years. And quite honestly, based on the things that I saw at the Consumer Electronics Show earlier this month, I'm not surprised.
Wow, that's only 4 years away.
Yeah, that's amazing, huh?
Yeah. Did you hear a lot of buzz about these cars at the Consumer Electronics Show?
Well, what most people probably don't know is that all the major automobile companies have a really heavy presence with CES. They were there touting all the consumer-friendly technology gadgets that they integrate into their vehicles. And there were things that you'd expect to find in any modern car, better sound systems, and new entertainment systems to keep the kiddies happy in the back seat, and more ways to connect your mobile, your tablet or your mobile phone to your car system so you can listen to your music or even connect to the internet as you drive. But there was also a significant emphasis on safety features to help drivers avoid accidents and keep them from dinging their cars accidentally when they park. And a lot of those features look suspiciously like early attempts at automating some of the drudgery and dangers of driving.
Did you see anything specific that seemed unusual or interesting?
Yeah, well, one manufacturer, for example, had this onboard computer that was used to optimize the driving experience to the point that it can control how fast you go and how close you get to the car in front of you on the highway in order to maximize your fuel efficiency. Kind of like drafting that you see in the car races. But this was done so that when you're on the highway, you can, make sure you're getting the best mileage you can.
So I guess it's like an auto feedback loop.
Yeah, that's a good description of it, I guess. And there's a number of cars that will be including projectors that will display on the windshield in front of a driver critical information, things like the speed that they're going and all the some of the dials and stuff that you normally have on the dashboard. And the idea there is that it keeps the drivers from having to move their eyes away from the traffic and getting distracted. And BMW and Ford actually demonstrated fully autonomous concept cars that drove themselves around a track and through the streets of Las Vegas, if you can believe that. And, these are cars that they don't expect to be offering to the public right away, but they just wanted to show that they're moving forward with this kind of technology.
I can tell you're pretty excited about these new cars. So help me understand, why is this so cool? What's wrong with driving your own car?
One, just imagine being able to take a nap while you're in your car when you're going, from place to place.
You're assuming I don't nap.
Well, you're the person the self-driving car is being built for, my
I
friend.
know.
Well, and I'm excited, really, because I feel that this is going to completely revolutionize transportation in the U.S., improving safety and security to a point where car accidents will become rare and unusual. And to be sure, some of the technology hurdles have to be solved, but quite honestly, I suspect that the legal issues will be tougher to resolve than the technical ones. And there are already other companies jumping into this, into the fray, promising to develop technologies that will reduce the danger of driving by putting more control of the experience in the metaphysical hands, if you will, of the onboard computer, and limiting the damage that can be done by the driver behind the wheel. You think of it, it's the same way that flight computers on airplanes keep pilots from making potentially fatal mistakes when they're flying.
Well, I guess if automation is good enough for us when we're 10,000 feet in the air, it ought to be good enough for us when we're driving on the ground, right?
Yeah, excellent point. And as for Google, it's not, they don't look at this as they want to build a self-driving car as much as it is about exploiting that technological advantage or that development to strengthen their core business, which is finding new ways to advertise and getting their customers to spend more money on reaching their target audience.
So when you get into a self-driving car, I assume that you're going to put in the address or the location that you want to go to, buckle in, and then the car just starts up while you're sitting there?
It just starts up and starts moving, and it uses sensors, everything from, things that we use today, like GPS to guide us, to something called LiDAR, which is like laser radars. That way it can pinpoint distances between itself and all the objects around it. Google has been demonstrating the self-driving car for, about 4 years now or 5 years.
Mm-hmm. And so it's using sensors to detect potential pedestrians ahead, traffic lights, stop signs. This is inconceivable to me, knowing how hard it is to teach a 16-year-old brain to watch for those things. Any parent listening today who has experienced the phenomena of teaching your children to drive is probably in disbelief that a self-driving car is even possible. I just have to say it.
Yeah, think about it. I mean, computers are working, at geometrically faster, parsing data faster than we can even think it. So the example that I use is the typical scenario of a driver sees a ball come into the car in front of him, and then some kid run out into traffic. Well, by the time that's registered in your brain, the computer has already detected the ball, detected the kid, slowed the car down without having to slam on the brakes, and made sure that the cars behind them aren't going to crash into them.
Why didn't they have this when my two children were learning to drive?
Yeah. I think a lot of parents in the future are going to be much happier about letting their kids go out in the
I will
cars.
tell you, it's the scariest experience. I mean, you come close to death. My daughter just didn't seem to be able to notice traffic lights. So we would just zoom through those red lights going full speed. She wouldn't even slow down. So we had a thing whenever we turned a corner, I would say, name the lights. And she'd say green, green, red, green, yellow. And I'd say, yes. She'd have to do this all the time. So now, she's almost 30 years old. She has this thing when we turn the corner. She goes, red, red, green, yellow. As far as she can see the lights, she names them. It's a little bit of an inside family joke. But boy, there are a lot of parents that can't wait for a self-driving car. We are out of time, but thank you for coming by and giving us a heads up on these driverless taxis. I can hardly wait. Thanks again, Louis, and we'll see you next week.
My pleasure. This is Louis Alvarez, President and CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, reminding everyone that when it comes to technology, forewarned is forearmed.